Welcome to episode 20 of the Gambots podcast. I'm your host, Eric, and this is my co-host.
It's Christian.
On today's episode, we're going to be discussing Aquaman, Bumblebee, some movies that I've watched over Christmas break here, finally the review of the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, and we're going to go over some of the biggest games that are supposed to be coming out in 2019. And finally, we'll be finishing with the Amazon review game. But first, Christian, you saw Aquaman over the past couple weeks. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I went in not really sure what to expect. It was I was not sold on the trailers. I know you said you hadn't really watched any of the trailers. I was not super sold on it, but it surprised me. I ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
I have not seen very many trailers for this. I actually went to see this yesterday in the movie theater, but the speakers broke during the previews, and so we sat there for 20 minutes. And then while we were exiting, they gave you like a free pass or something. And you work in a movie theater, I'm sure you've had to deal with this before, right?
Oh my, yes.
And so as we were leaving, me and my friend who I went to see it with, see this couple just freaking out. I think it's grandparents with their grandson. They're yelling at this poor college kid about how, they wasted their time coming here and they demand that their concessions be refunded, ignoring the fact that they had eaten all their concessions at this point already. And then the one guy's yelling about how he knows the owner personally and he's going to call him. And then like 5 minutes later, we see him yelling at his phone. And he's like, call UEC Theaters. So it's just going to call the same place. And they're just making such a big stink. Like, we felt bad for the workers. Like, the dude running it, this was like 1 o'clock on a Saturday. I'm sure the big manager and stuff wasn't there. Like, the dude running it could not give them $50 or whatever and free food back. Like, it was clearly beyond his pay grade, and I felt so bad for the guy.
Yeah, I definitely know the feeling. I remember, I believe it was Force Awakens. We had a power failure, like a transformer blew down the block, and the power went out to the whole building with I think 10 minutes left in Force Awakens. People were not happy.
And I get it. It's really unfortunate, but I mean, life happens sometimes. Like, people just need to learn to deal with it better.
Yeah, like I mean, God knows I love movies more than I should, and even I'm saying, like, guys, it's a movie. Like, chill.
Yeah, my favorite was also the lady in this was yelling about how they should have known that this was going to happen because last week she came and the sound during the previews didn't play either, and that they knew it was broken or something. And I was sitting there thinking, like, have you seen Aquaman 2 weeks in a row? Because otherwise, why would you be in the theater last week? She's complaining because her grandson didn't get to hear the previews last week.
Oh,
yeah. Sorry, my tangent on my feelings of Aquaman. So you thought,
man, if we're gonna do a whole segment on like staff versus customers at a movie theater, I've got enough to fill a whole series of podcasts unto itself.
We should do that sometime. But back then. All right, so you think it's a really fun movie. How did Jason Momoa do in it?
He was good. Like, he was goofy. I don't know how much I like him as an actor, like just as a straight up actor. I like him as a person, and I love how he like fully embraces these characters. So even just like watching him in like Comic-Con and stuff like that, and he came out during the Aquaman premiere and did that big like traditional dance. That was pretty cool to see. So he's fully into this character, and it shows in his performance. He's just real fun to watch in this role.
What about the rest of the cast?
They were all pretty good. There were some odd choices. Like, I didn't know the full cast. Like, I knew Jason Momoa, obviously, and I knew Amber Heard, but I didn't really know anyone else that was in it. Not to say they're unknown, just that I wasn't aware they were in it. Like, Dolph Lundgren was one of the like kind of antagonists, so that was an interesting choice.
Is Willem Dafoe also in it?
Yeah, Willem Dafoe is like a supporting character. The main antagonist is Patrick Wilson, who shocked me despite the fact that they show him multiple times in the trailer, I guess didn't pay close enough attention, or it didn't really look like him in those scenes that they showed. But he started talking like, that's Patrick Wilson. What is he doing in this movie? And last but not least, there was a completely random like voiceover only cameo by Julie Andrews.
Really?
Mary Poppins herself.
What is she in this? Like, what does she voice over? Like a fish or something?
She voices like a giant sea monster.
That's so weird.
Oh, also two completely CG characters. Because so the underwater world in this movie is split into like 5 factions, and Patrick Wilson is in charge of the Atlanteans. So he's in charge of like Aquaman's actual, I guess, tribe, you would call them. But there's others, and so one of them is like mer people, like legitimate, they're like half fish people, and the leader of them is voiced by Demon Hansu from Guardians of the Galaxy and Blood Diamond. He has a very recognizable voice. And the leader of the people who all look like crabs is John Rhys Davies.
No, you're telling me that there's crab people in this movie?
Oh yeah, for sure. An enormous battle with a whole bunch of them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's real up and down. And this is what I was saying to people who are asking me my real review. Like, it was real up and down. I swung violently back and forth between I love this movie and I hate this movie. It was really like scene by scene. Like I said, Jason Momoa was great. His relationship with Amber Heard was fun. The CG was beautiful, especially in 3D and the underwater scenes. It was really, really cool. But the writing seemed a little not perfect. Yeah, some of it just didn't seem organic. A lot of the dialogue was just kind of dumb. And so I know there were things that were said that I was like, ugh. I'm off board again. But then they would show a cool underwater battle and I'd be back in.
Man, that's see, like hearing you say it's your up and down, and hearing about the crab people, mer people. I just have no idea how they're going to do Aquaman. I don't pay Aquaman that much attention in comics or anything, so it's just like one of those movies where I just kind of want to see it because it's such a weird premise for me for a movie. But how was the underwater scenes? I feel like they would get tiresome after a while, or were they good?
Well, only about half the movie takes place underwater, so it didn't really get too bad. The giant battle at the end was intense and not necessarily in a good way. A lot of things you kind of get lost in it in certain points because it's huge. It's not like 2 people fighting, it's like 2 full armies and they're all underwater and they have like lasers and stuff. It was a little odd. But when they're just showcasing like their CG ability, when they're going through Atlantis for the first time in that little submarine, and everything's lit up and there's fish floating around and you're zooming past everything, it was really, really cool. I was super into it. But yeah, when they went just full out during that battle at the end, it was a bit much.
So I'm hoping to see this later. Anything else really interesting or really bad about this movie you want to let our audience know about?
Not particularly. I will say it's got a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I would say is pretty fair. It also made 260 million domestically, but it's set to top 900 million this weekend. Like the final numbers for the weekend aren't in, but the projection looks like it's going to be 940 million globally after this weekend. So it's making a ton of money internationally.
Yeah, I saw that. I believe it's actually going to make more than Batman vs Superman did for them, which is one of their higher grossing pictures.
Well, I hope so, because it was definitely better than that Nightmare.
Yeah. So before I forget, how did James Wan do as a director? I really liked his take on Fast and Furious, and I know you like his horror movies. He does The Conjuring or something, right?
Yeah, we had talked a few episodes back about his his kind of real varied portfolio of films that he's worked on, and this was going to be something new for him. I think he did well. I wouldn't mind seeing more from him in really any genre, but superheroes as well. I hope they keep him on.
Cool. All right. Also, these past couple weeks, you've seen Bumblebee. Now, Bumblebee is a surprise of a movie for me. I barely saw anything about this, and then when I saw it was actually a thing, I was really surprised. For a Transformers movie, it seems like it came a bit under the radar because the other ones always come out on like 4th of July. How is Bumblebee?
It is really good. When I saw the preview for this, when I saw that this was what they had announced, I groaned. I was so done with Transformers after the fifth one. The fifth one was laughably bad. Like, I could not believe how bad it was. And in the fifth one, they introduced the concept that Bumblebee has been here since World War One and like helped people fight the Germans in World War One, which made less than no sense.
Yeah.
And so I had assumed that that's what the Bumblebee story was going to be then, this new movie, but it is not. So they did a really, really good job with this. I really, really enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to. And I really only went and took it seriously because of the ratings that it had been getting online.
Yeah, that's what drew my interest of it. I don't know if I've seen a Transformers since the third one because Shia LaBeouf wasn't in it anymore. They went with Marky Mark direction, and they just weren't really that good of movies. And I really like the Transformers growing up. They're some of my favorite toys, and I like the animations, cartoons, and the original like 89 was the year it came out movie where they more or less reboot everything and got the new characters coming in. I really like that movie. Like growing up, huge Transformers fan, and mostly this movie franchise has been a disappointment to me. So it's weird to me to hear that there's actually a good one out right now.
Yeah, like from 4 on, it just became kind of a joke. I don't remember big chunks of the fourth one. The fifth one was, yeah, just laughably bad. Now, on the note of continuity, though, they have completely thrown the continuity of this entire show or this entire movie franchise out the window. Like they have drifted into the territory of X-Men where they just do not give a fig about what happened when relative to these other movies.
I was wondering about that. So is this related to the original series, or is this a standalone? They're starting with a new timeline.
That is not clear because nothing is clear. So, like I said, they take great pains in the fifth one to imply that Bumblebee has been on Earth since World War One, and then in this one, they are very clear to illustrate that he arrived on Earth for the first time in 1987. Then there's a scene where he's talking to Optimus, and he tells Optimus his name is Bumblebee for the first time, because for the rest of the movie, Optimus refers to him by like a call number, like B199 or something. And so you're left sitting like, and that scene takes place on Earth, and so you're left with like, when does this take place? By the time they come to Earth in the first movie, they already know his name is Bumblebee. So does Optimus come to Earth, then leave, and then come back again later? It's a mess. But besides the continuity, this movie was really good. Everybody was good in it. Haley Steinfeld was a lot of fun, and John Cena, as always, was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so continuity-wise, I hope they just reset and this is just a new series. I think that would be their best option, and I'm wondering if that's maybe the direction they're going with how they've designed Optimus Prime because he's in his more traditional look than how they did him for the original series. And then moving on to cast, I was really surprised to see John Cena was in this after we talked about how much we loved him in Blockers last week.
Yeah, he was great. Like, I would really hope this was just kind of like a soft reboot. That would be very nice because the way they left the end of 5 was just absolutely ridiculous. They essentially say at the end of the 5th one that Earth was Unicron the entire time, and so now they have to fight planet Earth.
Weird. Well, it's good to see that they're going in a different direction. Who's the main bad guy in this one? Is it Megatron?
No, I don't know their names. It's like 2 random Decepticons that have tracked Bumblebee to Earth, and so he has to fight them. But the beginning has like 5 to 6 really incredible moments. So the beginning of this movie opens with like the battle for Cybertron, and so it's all green screen and shiny and lens flare, but it was awesome. Like, it was so much fun to see nothing but the Transformers just beating the crap out of each other on this world that's also a Transformer, and like just very, very fun. Like, I would not mind seeing like a Battle for Cybertron movie, even though it would have to be like 100% green screen.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the thing about the Transformers movies are they always did look pretty cool, and the best parts of them were when the robots were fighting.
Yeah, they all look cool for sure. It's everything else that was the problem. But this is the first one in a long time that left me saying like I would not mind more of this.
What is the main story of this one? Is it just Bumblebee trying to get back to Cybertron, or is there something more to it?
He's like a scout. Optimus, they decide that they're going to lose the battle for Cybertron, and so Optimus sends Bumblebee to Earth to kind of as like an advanced guard to secure it, and he's going to go get all the other Autobots and send them to Earth later. So it's kind of a prequel to the original, but yeah, like I said, the timeline's a mess. So
Yeah,
it's just about Bumblebee trying to stay hidden from the two Decepticons that have tracked him to Earth, and then he has to confront them eventually.
oh, cool.
And then he like you show it shows how he loses his ability to speak because he talks in the beginning.
Oh, that's my other question is, does he just talk with the radio? So there is some continuity then. He does lose his ability to talk.
Yeah, he does have an actual like speaking voice in the beginning, and then it gets ripped out pretty early, one of the first fights. And so then, yeah, he becomes Haley Steinfeld's Volkswagen Bug, and so she teaches him how to use the radio to speak, and they become friends. And so, yeah, it really is just it's a cool movie. It's a lot more fun than the previous ones, just as like shiny looking, but it's got a much better story.
The other thing I was happy to see is that they go back to his original VW Bug look instead of being a Camaro or Mustang or whatever he was in the other ones. I think it makes more sense because Bumblebee was kind of like a nerd, or not even a nerd, but he was Bumblebee in the cartoons was not a cool Transformer.
Yeah, now he upgrades at the end. He scans like an old like 80s Camaro, but yeah, for the vast majority of this movie, he's a Volkswagen.
Okay.
The only other thing I'll say is just on stats. It made 97 million domestically since it came out. It made 290 million globally. So it's not up in Aquaman's bracket, but it's still doing pretty well. The Rotten Tomatoes is up at 93%, which is the kind of score that got me to the movie in the first place. I think that's a bit high, but it's not like crazy. I would probably put it around like 80, 85.
So overall, not a bad Transformers movie.
Yep.
Hard to believe I'm seeing that in 2019.
It's shocking, right? I know.
Yeah. All right, guys. Next, we're going to be talking about some movies that we have seen over our Christmas break, just because we had such a long time, and I finally caught up on some movies, and I'm assuming you were able to as well, right, Christian?
Yeah, we can knock these out rapid fire here.
All right, so the first one I saw is I ended up watching Fletch, which is an old Chevy Chase movie. I found it surprisingly funny. He's an investigative reporter. He's trying to investigate. Someone asked him to help him kill themselves, and I guess it's Chevy Chase in his prime. It's why people used to really love him. And I think if you have not had a chance to see Chevy Chase recently, because he's had a lot of issues with getting cast, especially after Community, I would definitely check it out because he is funny.
Yeah, I'd never even heard of this one, so I'm gonna have to look into it.
Yep. Next one I watched is I saw Logan Lucky finally. I really have been wanting to see this for a while, and I love this movie. It's about two hicks from West Virginia essentially robbing a NASCAR race robbing the vault during a NASCAR race. I wish I had seen this earlier in theaters. I generally did not think I like Adam Driver, but I really enjoyed him in this. He plays in either Iraqi or Afghanistan war amputee veteran, and him and his brother are great at it. Channing Tatum plays the other character. The casting in this and the acting is phenomenal. Daniel Craig is a character in this. I could not place him till the end when I decided to look it up. And overall, love this movie. Love that West Virginia gets some representation. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, I loved this movie. It was for me, like, it was one of like the surprises of 2017. This is something I came up and watched on like a Monday night just because I had nothing else going on. I'm like, I'm Logan Lucky. I'll go see what this is all about. And I laughed pretty consistently the whole way through. I was blown away.
Yeah, it's funny when they're in there with Daniel Craig explaining how he's going to blow up a vault with gummy bears. Oh my God. Them explaining chemistry and stuff to each other. I thought that part was great.
Yeah, it was a surprise. And it has an even bigger cast than just the ones that you named. Like, it has Katie Holmes, Seth MacFarlane is in it for a little while. The Winter Soldier, Sebastian Stan. Sebastian Stan is in it as kind of like a bit part. So yeah, it was full of these surprise faces, and it was shockingly funny. I would definitely recommend this to anybody who hasn't seen it yet.
I agree. The next one I saw is a Christmas movie. We're past it, but I'm probably not going to remember to talk about this next year. It's a Netflix original called The Christmas Chronicles. It stars Kurt Russell as Santa, who is by far the best part of this movie. The rest of the movie is pretty standard. These kids, one's a teenager, one's younger. Their dad died. They end up spending Christmas Eve together because their mom's out working. They try to catch a video of Santa Claus, and in doing so, they end up, crashing Santa's sleigh, and they have to help him save Christmas or whatever. The parts with just the kids really bad, but Kurt Russell is amazing as Santa, and I think he salvaged this movie. I don't know if I would suggest actually watching this movie, but if you have to, Kurt Russell is very good at it in it.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit like on Christmas Day with my cousins that were in, and they had just watched it, I think, the night before, and they also said they really liked it. It's been on my list of things to get through. I didn't have internet at my house for a little while, so I was not really streaming much of anything in December, but now that I've got it back, I'm going to be diving back in.
Yeah, well, Kurt Russell's good. Like I said, the rest, though, I think it's kind of boring. I think it's long. they have these elves in it, which I only think they included to try and rival like the popularity of the Minions. But overall, Kurt Russell's cool in it. The next one I saw is I finally get to see Mortal Engines, and like you, I think it's a fun movie. I definitely had total like young adult portions that I was watching. I was like, I don't know how much I like this. Like they had I forget the one character's name, but the lady in red who knew martial arts and stuff, and then they go to the flying city in the clouds and stuff. Like all that part felt very young adult novel to me, and then like the robot who I thought was still pretty cool. But overall, fun movie. Glad I saw it in theaters.
Yeah, it was definitely a theater kind of movie. The scale of it and the graphics, I think it would have been best enjoyed on a big screen.
Yep. I finally saw Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Overall, I think it was pretty much of a math movie for me. Like it was okay. It seems like they were trying to force the fun of like hunting the beast in the original movie into like a more serious, darker tone about Grindelwald wanting to subjugate the rest of the human race who weren't magic. And I don't think tonally I felt like it felt off for most of the movie. And generally I thought some parts were kind of dumb, like in England right now, Aurors just use the death curse on anyone. They don't try and capture them or anything like that, which seems odd to me, I guess. I never thought about it, but it's called an unforgivable curse for a reason, or a forbidden curse or whatever. My two biggest issues are I think they should have had 100% more Dan Fogler. He was my favorite character and by far the funniest character in the first one. And then the second issue with it is they totally assassinated the character of Queenie, and I don't think for any real reason other than to create conflict. And both of those characters could not have been in this movie, and it would not have made a difference.
I was less okay with the very end reveal.
Oh, yeah. It's like hard because we don't want to spoil it, but with ending with Koreans, I had to go online because I thought I had completely forgotten a Harry Potter character, and no, it was just made up for this movie.
Yeah, they're shoehorning a little bit. Yeah, that was my main issue. There's I feel like they're getting like a Star Wars prequel syndrome, where they're just trying to like shove bits of the original in for just nostalgia's sake instead of trying to write a good story.
Yeah, that's why I like the first one so much, is because it was more or less a standalone movie. You didn't need to bring Credence back. Like, why did he come back? They don't explain how he survived this thing that was supposed to kill him. Nothing was explained. I don't know. The second one I thought was just, I really like the first one. The second one, it's fine, but I just think some of it doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't think they thought through this that well.
Yeah, I really like Ezra Miller. I was happy to see him in this because I do like him as an actor. I, honest to God, did think that he died in the first one. I did not realize that he had survived. And maybe you just don't know, because I haven't seen the original in probably a year or two, so I don't remember it super, super well. I did end up, I think I liked this one more than the original just because it was like a darker story. But yeah, I definitely did have issues with some of their choices.
Yeah, I guess one last thing I'll point out is Nagini going to be a good character for this part, this trilogy, and then join Voldemort later on? Like, I don't understand the motivations either.
Very unclear. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard that there were supposed to be 5 of them. I've also heard that there's supposed to be 4. So we've got at least 2 or 3 more movies to wrap these characters up. So who knows? Maybe they'll make some good choices with them, and the sins of this movie will be absolved. But yeah, where it stands now, there are a lot of weird loose ends that I don't really know how they're going to wrap up.
Yeah. What about you? What are some that you have seen over the past couple weeks?
Well, the 2 big ones were obviously Aquaman and Bumblebee, which we've talked about. I also watched Vice, which is a documentary. Well, not a doc. It's a biopic of Dick Cheney's life, former Vice President Dick Cheney, and it was really, really good. The director was Adam McKay, who did The Big Short, which was also a very good movie, if anybody hasn't seen The Big Short. And it uses a lot of the same actors. He seems to be a director that likes who he works with. So Dick Cheney is played by Christian Bale, who is completely unrecognizable. He transforms into this character. And then you've got supporting roles. George W. Bush is played by Sam Rockwell, who also disappears into his role. When they first announced that's who was playing Bush, I was kind of like, eh. Then I saw the first preview, and I was like, oh, no, this is perfect. He was perfect for that role. Donald Rumsfeld is played by Steve Carell. Dick Cheney's wife is played by Amy Adams. Like, everyone deserves awards for this movie. It was really, really well directed, and it was perfectly acted. But not Amy Adams. I don't like Amy Adams.
So is this? So when I saw this, I thought it was a weird movie that they're making by choice of subject. Is this like a Dick Cheney redemption story? Because generally, I don't think he's looked at that well in the public, unless maybe you're a very, very strong conservative. But generally, I feel like most people don't like Dick Cheney.
Oh no, it is not a Dick Cheney redemption story.
Okay, so it's more lampooning him.
Yeah, so it's nominated for a bunch of Golden Globes, and they're all in the comedy category, which isn't quite right. It's not really a comedy. There are funny moments. I think a lot of it is just built around the pure absurdity of situations that these people got themselves into and got the country into. But it's not really a comedy. It's more of a drama, and it's more of a biopic. And they say outright in the opening title card that they're guessing on some of these things because Cheney's a very private person. Mm-hmm. But they seem to do a good job extrapolating. My only complaint about it was for like a 2 or 3 minute period in the middle. Amy Adams and Christian Bale were both. I don't know much Shakespeare. It's entirely possible I think they were quoting maybe Othello. But yeah, they were laying in bed talking to each other, and it was full Shakespearean dialogue, which was an odd choice.
Yeah, weird.
But yeah, on the whole, I would definitely say watch this movie if you still can. I don't know how long it's going to be around for. I learned a lot.
I might have to go check this out on $5 Tuesday.
And the only other movie I watched over the holiday that we didn't get a chance to cover in a regular episode was Holmes and Watson, which I talked briefly about last week as my number one worst movie of 2018 because it was cover to cover, top to bottom garbage.
So did you laugh at all during it?
There is a literal single moment, and it is in the last scene of the movie, or one of the very last scenes of the movie. Definitely not worth watching this entire movie for that one. Go watch something else at the movie theater, then find out when Holmes and Watson ends and duck in for like the last 5 minutes.
Okay. Good advice. All right, guys. Finally, we're going to give you our review of the Spyro Reignited Trilogy. I beat this a little while ago, and we talked about it on our last episode, but I just wanted to do a little bit more of a deep dive on it so I can rate it and tell you guys what I think of it. Overall, I really enjoyed all three of these games, and if I had to rank them, I think I like Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage the best, followed by the first game, and then followed by the third game. I know you're only partway through 2, Christian, but you've also played the original trilogy. What's your ranking of them?
I would probably go 1, 3, 2.
Okay. So we're pretty much almost exactly the opposite then.
Yeah, I think I like the first one just because I remembered it the most. Like playing through, I'm part of the way through Ripto's Rage now, the second one, and it's surprising me how little I remember of this one. I think I must have played the first and the third the most, I guess, and the second one just kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah, I think the first one would have been my favorite in this trilogy had the flight sequences in that one been slightly more forgiving. That one killed it for me, and I think that's why I elevated 2, because overall I think they're all very similar, but I think 2 had the best balance of flight mechanics because you just had to, you had to destroy so many objects in a set amount of time, and then the only other thing you had to do was find one challenge orb, which is generally pretty easy to do. The third one, I hated the races that they made you do. And then in the first one, it was just such a tight window that it was more frustrating than I think it should have been. So I think that's what dropped it out of my number one. But what I really liked about number one was everything was self-contained in each world in the first game. So like you could 100% a level when you first got to it. In the second game, it was a little more annoying where you had to go back 1 or 2 times when you unlocked the ability to like ground smash or things like that. And then in the third one, you had to wait till you unlock more characters, and it was even more of I thought it was even more annoying to go back and play multiple levels. Granted, they make it very easy. You can just go to the levels. You just hit start, and then you can go directly to the level. You don't have to fly to the world, then to the level. But I really liked in the first one just being able to 100% a level the first time through.
Yeah, I was just talking to my friend James about that. I was saying, like, you start a level in the first game, and if you look, you can know what the trophy that you're aiming for is, and you can know what, like, the skill point, if there is one for that level that you're aiming for is, and you can just knock it out in one go, with the exception of the flying levels. I had to go back and get the trophies on a second run, but yeah, you could absolutely 100% them, and that's already started to irritate me a little bit in the second one. Now, when do you skateboard? Is at all in the second one, or is that just in the third one? Because I love the skateboarding ones.
That's just the third one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really remember the races that you're talking about. I have a vague recollection, but I'm sure I'll remember when I get to them.
Yeah, so in the second one, they started introducing mini games, which I thought were a little annoying. I liked in the first one that you just found either the dragon eggs or the dragons. The second one, you have to find you're collecting these green gems or green orbs or something like that. And they started introducing some mini games in the third one. They fully introduced, I think, more mini games that includes like the skateboarding and stuff, which you say you're a fan of. I wasn't actually that much of a fan of it. I thought it controlled weird, and I thought it was kind of annoying. But I mean, it was fine. It's easy enough to get, but I was not a fan as much of the mini games. And the races in the third one are during a flying level. You have to like race from 6th place to 1st place or something around laps, and I just thought they were kind of weird. I did not enjoy them. I really liked the core concept of just running around collecting gems, and the more they got away from that, the less I liked the game, I think.
Yeah. Now the third one is the one where they introduce like the other characters that you can control, right? Like you get the penguin and the kangaroo.
Yes, and so I don't know if it's because I played the third one and I was just kind of getting fatigued of Spyro at that point because I've been playing it for almost a month straight, off and on. But the other characters move slower than Spyro, and it kind of annoyed me because I like running. I'm just used to a certain speed, and then you get like the Yeti, and he's so lumbering at parts.
Yeah, I forgot about the Yeti.
Um, I didn't really like the bosses in 3, even though I think they're the most fleshed out of them. I thought 2 did the best job with bosses. And then the first, actually, I think the first game did the worst job of bosses. They're more puzzles than bosses. You just had to run into them once. The third game had better bosses than them, but I think the second game did the best with their bosses. And overall, I think the best improvement of life feature is being able to locate orbs with your Firefly Sparks. That is a lifesaver if you miss one.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh yeah, and the third one has the Sparks mini games, doesn't it? Where
Yeah,
he goes down into like the anthills.
yeah, those ones are actually pretty fun.
Oh, I remember hating those. Maybe I'll like them better the second time around. But yeah, I remember hating those when I was a kid.
Yeah, they're not that bad. If you can beat the flight on the first one, you can definitely do the Agent Sparks mini games on this one.
All right, good.
They're like their own level. They're not too bad. There's only like one, like you have boss fights in them and stuff, and as long as you can get a power up, they're not bad. Overall, I think I would rate this trilogy a high B. I definitely would suggest picking it up as I think the games are really enjoyable. But for like giving a game an A to me, that means it's one of the best games of this generation, and I just don't know if it's there. I just think it's a really enjoyable game that you should check out if you have the chance to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a much more casual play than like a lot of video games out there now.
Yeah. And finally, me and Christian are going to let you guys know about the biggest games we're looking forward to in 2019. Now, 2019 seems to be releasing a lot of huge games. The normal ones you get, there's going to be some new Far Cries and stuff. But I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but are there any games in 2019 you're really looking forward to, Christian?
Well, I mean, obviously, there's the big one that comes out in 23 days, Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yep.
Beyond that, I saw that they're doing a remaster for the fourth Crash Bandicoot, Crash Team Racing, which is like it was like a cheap money grab off of Mario Kart, essentially, with Crash Bandicoot characters. But I remember liking it as a kid, and so I'll probably be into it.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3 definitely on my list as well. We've talked about it ad nauseum on prior episodes, so I'm not gonna go there because I'm sure once it comes out we'll talk about it again. I never played Crash Team Racing, but I know people have a lot of fond memories of it because it was essentially the PlayStation's answer to Mario Kart, and it was supposed to be pretty good from what I've heard. So that seems pretty cool. The other big games I'm really looking forward to. There's a Switch game, the new Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe comes out, I think, on January 19th. I'm pretty sure it's just a port of the new Super Mario Brothers U from the Wii U, but I really like that game, so I'm looking forward to playing it again. Also, Devil May Cry 5 is coming out. Now, I haven't played Devil May Cry series since Devil May Cry 3, but I really like them. Dante was one of my favorite video game characters from the PS2 era, so I'm excited to check out his new game. Anthem's being released from the group BioWare, who did the Mass Effect games and those. So I'm really interested to see how that turns out. I'm hoping it's good. And then, like you said, Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out in 23 days, I guess. So some big games coming out that look pretty sweet.
Yeah, like I'm as I've said, not been big in the video game community in the past few years. Now that I have my PS4, I'm kind of dedicated to getting back into it. So my list of games I'm looking forward will probably grow as the year goes on and I get more into like the community. But I looked over the list that you sent me and I was like, I don't know anything about any of these.
Yeah, I mean, you've actually hit a sweet spot though now that you have your PlayStation. Like, there's what 5 years behind the PlayStation now, and there are some classics on here. So if there's ever like a dry period, you can just go back and pick up an amazing game for probably discount price. I mean, the PlayStation has some really good games. So if you're not interested in something, just wait till reviews and play something that is going to be good.
Yeah.
And finally, we're going to play our Amazon review game. As a quick recap, I'm going to read a 5-star Amazon review to Christian, and he's going to get 2 guesses to try and guess what it is, and then he can have me read a second review. You'll get 2 more questions for yes/no questions, 2 more yes or no questions, and then he can get 1 final review, and he has to guess what the movie is. Are you ready, Christian?
Let's boogie.
What else can I say about this movie that hasn't already been said? This movie is a timeless classic that still holds up to this day, no matter how many times I watch it. Today's cinema is brimmed with CGI that, as time passes, becomes outdated and loses its luster. But this movie is a perfect mix of subtle CGI and animatronics, even in its infancy, and has stood the test of time even after 25 plus years. The director brought a beautiful world to life with many beloved characters and many iconic moments in this film. I love this movie as I grew up, and I still love it to this day. A true timeless classic that everyone should have in their movie collection.
There were some good clues in there. Is this a Steven Spielberg movie?
Yes.
Does this movie feature dinosaurs?
Yes.
Is it the original Jurassic Park?
It is. Man, you got there quick.
When you said animatronic, I was going back and forth between Jurassic Park and Jaws.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to think, because, animatronics were the major things back in the day.
Yeah, practical effects, man. Like, this was just on TV, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was watching with my nephew, and he was like, it looks good. And I was like, yeah, man, this movie came out so long ago, and it still does look pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like CGI is good and all, but, you do lose something with practical effects. You saw it in, the new Force Awakens movie that they started using practical effects again instead of just CGI, and I think it looks so much better than the prequels did.
Yeah, agreed. My favorite one that I think I saw was the first Independence Day, because we don't talk about the second Independence Day ever.
Yeah.
But they built tiny models of New York and Los Angeles, and they put them on their sides and then lit fire underneath them, and that's how they made the fireball wave look like it was moving horizontally.
Really? Huh. That's
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, there's videos on YouTube of it. It's really, really cool looking. They put gasoline or something at the bottom and then lit it, and the big fireball just went up. But since the city was sideways, it looked like it was moving horizontally.
That's awesome. All right, guys, thanks for checking out our episode. Before we head out, Christian, what are you checking out this week?
I'm checking out Morocco. I'm going to be on vacation for about 12 days, so I'm going to be overseas. I'm not going to have much time to do anything movie-wise, but I'm sure I'll be reading some books on the plane. So I should have a couple stories at least to review when I get back.
Cool. Well, have a good trip. This week, or I guess for the next couple weeks, I've been watching Gravity Falls, which is awesome, and I'm probably going to continue watching that. I highly suggest it if you haven't seen it and you like cartoons. I am hoping to finish up Spider-Man. I'm about 70% of the way through the story and the trophies, so I should be getting that done in the next couple of days. And then I just have a backlog of games. I'm probably going to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey or something like that. I also picked up Nier Automata, which is supposed to be awesome, so I'm going to be checking those out. Otherwise, not much else.
Cool.
All right, guys. So as Christian said, he's going to be out of town for a little bit, so we won't be uploading an episode for the next 2 weeks. So check us out more towards the end of January, and we'll be getting our 21st episode up. But if you have a suggestion for our Amazon review game, you can either contact us at Gambots Network on Twitter, or we are gambots.blog@gmail.com if you want to send an email. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.